Open banking, the wider consumer data rights, long been touted as one of the most significant digital reforms in Australia. The aim of these reforms is, of course, to give power back to the consumer and hoped it will encourage competition and deliver better financial services. The deadline to deliver stage 1, we were talking about this just yesterday, of open banking, July 1, so not far away. Many fintechs argue that the timing could not be better. Split Payments is one such fintech, and their CEO, Kristofer Rogers, joins us now. Kristofer, thanks so much for speaking to us on Ausbiz. Tell us a bit about Split Payments. What do you do?
Sure, it's a pleasure to be on this hour of power, so thank you both. Look, essentially we've modernized direct entry banking, the direct debit and direct credit experience. When we looked at it a few years ago now, we found it to be pretty antiquated. And we thought we could do a better job at making what is the workhorse of the Australian economy behave in a more digital way. We're in a digital economy now, so why can't bank transfers just work better? And we've used open banking and data insights to really improve that whole experience on both sides of the coin, for merchants and also ultimately for the consumer.
Can I just ask, because I'm someone who's always been intrigued by this, why does it take so long? I mean, it's not like we're writing checks anymore and checking signatures. Why in the era of EFTs, does it take so long for money to move from one account to another?
Can you believe it, Simon? And interestingly, in the States and in Canada today, welfare packages are still being sent out by check, which for me is just unacceptable.
By pigeon?
Yeah, by pigeon. That would be better. And look, we're up in Byron. We could probably train a few of them to do a better job. But to answer your question, Simon, is because we use a clearinghouse system that all banks check into at any given point during any given day. And it's up to those banks to exchange files successfully in order to move the money. And so there's a high dependency on these rails working effectively. And it's really up to the banks to make sure that they're using all exchange points to the best possible end game. And that's not always the case. So you pay your gym membership by direct debit, and the gym's waiting for up to 3 days to know if you're even good for it. So it is changing. Split payments are playing an important part in that. But you're right, it just wasn't fit for purpose when there's so much innovation happening around real-time payments and the card schemes as well.
Yeah.
So tell us, who are Split Payments customers?
Well, we work in the enterprise space in Australia. We try and fix the biggest headaches, and that's dishonors and speed of clearance. And obviously that's felt at every level of business, whether you're a gym and a daycare, or an Australia Post or a big utility. So we work with the likes of Australia Post and some big enterprise clients who have high volume, high value needs to move money via direct debit.
I was going to say, so we've seen, obviously Air Wallets, for example, taking this to international payments. We've got Osco. Are you kind of similar to either of those, or are you working like very specifically in that direct debit space?
That's a good point. Know the Osco overlay particularly well, and know the Airwallex team. We have a laser-sharp focus on improving domestic direct entry banking. With that said, we're also a direct participant in the real-time rails, and in Australia, that's the new payments platform. Interestingly, by the end of this year, there will be 60 countries with a real-time payments capability. So, Kylie, that's a really interesting point. How are we going to use the interoperability to make that experience better? And interestingly, yesterday I was on an advisory council for APEC alongside Swift and PayPal, exploring ways in which interoperability of open banking can be improved. We're making recommendations. It will be a great thing to have a cross-border solution, but we at Split have a lot of problems to fix within the domestic market, which still moves trillions of dollars via direct entry. So that's where we're focused right now.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk around the acceleration of digital platforms in the COVID era. I mean, I don't think anything in the financial institutions will or can move quickly. We've got a July 1 deadline for stage 1 of open banking. But give us your take on how this is going to transform the way we operate, both as consumers and as businesses in the banking system.
That's a great question, and I want to put a COVID lens on that, because we're seeing some really interesting outcomes over the short term to do with open banking specifically. So what does open banking do? I know you guys have had a lot of conversations over the past week, and your audience are pretty increasingly aware of open banking. But imagine this, we can use data insight to perform things like available balance checks, so that before we try and attempt a payment, we can check whether there is available funds to do so and make sure it doesn't dishonor. Why is that so important now? Because people with debt, people trying to honor collections, often don't have a fair go at those repayments. And we're seeing a lot of our businesses perform balance checks before trying to take money to provide reduce financial stress in this current time. So a lot of people, and us included, are using data insights to provide really good payments outcomes for Australians. The second thing I'll say as well is that our financial literacy is improving as an upside to this economic downturn into this pandemic. The consumer's becoming more aware of the need to be more financially literate, to understand what stimulus is like super access, early super access, and mortgage pauses, the impact those things have on their financial well-being. Open banking is the best reform to give those consumers moving out of the pandemic, as then we get back to the upside, to get better financial services, to use their data to get better outcomes, better mortgages. And that, for me, is a really important and exciting outcome of the current unprecedented time.
So you've got it sounds like a sort of a for purpose, or a social lens, and at least part of your business, so you're providing kind of better social outcomes.
Yeah, I'd very much so, and it's built into our ethos and the team. But really, even if we're working in boring verticals like lending, if we can provide a better social and financial outcome in a lending environment, then absolutely that's our raison d'etre. That's what we want to be here for. And I think we're in a gig economy now. So many young Australians are working multiple shifts in multiple jobs. Payments have to keep up with that reality. So if we can service those people better, then absolutely, Kylie, we have a social outcome.
Okay, well, very interesting. Thank you for taking the time. Thanks for chatting to us. It's great to hear about it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you both so much.